Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Laryssa and Liz, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in this industry.
Welcome to episode 110. Today we're chatting with Kelly Hedgpeth, founder of Grace & Co. Business Solutions. With over 17 years of experience, Kelly is an expert in streamlining systems, especially for small businesses. She'll share what you need to know about setting up effective systems to keep your business running smoothly. Stay tuned for our bonus segment where we'll dive into practical tips for getting started with systems in your business. Hey, Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Thanks for being here. I feel like you're just set. I mean, you've talked to Stay Gold before and I've known you for a while, but I think it's just so important. I think this is coming out in December, but for, going into a new year for businesses, small businesses to think about their systems, right?
Definitely. It can be like your New Year's resolution.
I love that.
Working out one away. We never succeed in that. Let's talk systems.
Yes, that's such a good New Year's resolution. Why don't we start with an intro? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Okay, so I have always worked for small businesses when I was in college, when I got out, and it's just kind of my little happy place. It's a little chaotic always working for small businesses because you wear a lot of hats, but it's a great opportunity to be able to make a large impact in a company. That's what I think I've always enjoyed is I kind of see where small businesses have struggled with. For me, I'm a systems oriented person. So I'm always seeing where they're struggling with systems and bottlenecks and just making things smooth. And so I kind of noticed that firsthand. A lot of businesses that are really passionate, small businesses tend to be really passionate about what they do, but then they get bogged down in the day to day. So I kind of found my passion for systems early. I'm not a creative person like a lot of my clients are. I'm creative in a different mindset, I guess, spreadsheets and crazy things like that. So I just started implementing systems early in businesses and realized how quickly things got easier for all of the employees and for management. We had answers faster for things. I remember my first system at Dog-Eared was just order tracking. They used to handwrite everything. Every order would come in and it would go on like a piece of paper. And then people would call in and ask, did you get my order? And we would be flipping through Dog-Eared was insane when I worked there. It'd be like 40 pages we were looking through. And I was like, we cannot do this anymore. I was like, I'm digitizing this. It's going into Excel, that we'll just start simple. And I just did an Excel spreadsheet for any incoming orders. And everyone was like, flabbergasted, like it was rocket science. And I was like, okay, well, this was not difficult. Let me see where else I can do things. And so then we just started implementing systems in that sales department. And it kind of just sparked my fire. So yeah, that's where I've been.
It's especially wild that they were handwriting stuff because Dog-Eared was a huge business at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was there when Robin was there. I worked under Robin and we saw 800% growth at that time. So, they didn't have the problem of having to do a ton of outreach for orders. Orders were just flowing in. The line would be like down the hallway at New York Now. It was insane. So having to figure out if somebody placed an order or not and looking at paper and everyone's different handwriting, it was impossible. So, they needed systems and they let me kind of just put in whatever I wanted, try out a bunch of different things. It was fantastic. So that set me up for when I moved back to Texas. I worked for a couple companies and I moved into employee development and training. So I was creating all of the manuals that we were, creating how people were going to onboard and how they were going to learn their jobs and how they were going to continue that education. And so we noticed a lot of system breakdowns doing that. And so, yeah, I've always just kind of been working to improve I guess the lives of employees too, employees and owners, because nobody likes it when, they're hitting their head against a wall. So yeah.
It is interesting how big businesses you think that they have all of these systems in place because they're so big and they have so many employees. But I've worked for some bigger companies too. And it's like, oh, wow, you're just doing it this way right now. Like you haven't really thought this through.
Yeah. Well, they do it that way because it's the way it's always been done. And I hate that answer when somebody's like, I'm like, well, why are you doing it that way? And they're like, because that's just the way we do it. It's the way we've always done it. And I'm like, yeah, but don't you think there could be a better way? And I'm usually talking with managers when they bring me in, when I used to consult for companies that were a little larger. And I'd be like, let's just ask the team members what they think. And they would have total solutions. They'd be like, if we did it this way, we could save, half a day. And I was like, great, let's put that in place.
Yeah.
And so, then I realized I could just do my own thing and started Grace & Co Solutions. So that's where it all started.
Change is hard for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Change is hard for people, although in some of my roles, I had to write SOPs, and that is not my skill set at all. And then I'd be like, wait, but you're having me write an SOP? Like, you're supposed to tell me what to do. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that is where a lot of little companies start. But I'll give you a few tools that'll make writing SOPs really easy. Some of them will just document it for you. And then now so many people just want to watch video. So we can talk about tools for that too.
That's great. And just to be clear with everyone listening who doesn't know what an SOP is or has never been tasked with doing that, it's a standard operating procedure. And it can be like traditionally, like what I've seen is like a binder with like notes on how to like do certain things.
Yeah, it's kind of like your how-to guide, like your little like step-by-step how-tos.
So, okay. How would you define systems for a small business owner? Like what do we mean by systems?
So, for systems, how we're talking about here, it's basically just the process and tools that you're using to help your business run smoothly and consistently. The key thing with systems is that consistency, that you're not reinventing the wheel every time you do something. And so it's those how-to steps. It's just like to mail something, you do these 10 things, simple example. But so they can be like a checklist. It can be automated tools that you're using that are kind of starting, and then it runs through its own automation of getting a process done. It's documented workflows. It is how-to videos. So it's however works for you to document something or to jot something down is the best method to kind of get your system in place. Like in the old days, yes, it was SOPs in a binder, like they were printed. You went to it when you had to learn how to do it. Now there's so many digital options. It can be like at your fingertips and ready to go. So yeah, but that's kind of the systems we talk about.
Laryssa, I'm guessing you have a lot of systems for your business.
No thanks to me, though. Yeah, I have a marketing operations team member, and she pretty much created all the systems that live in Notion for us. So everything's like super searchable in like databases and stuff, and it transformed everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice because you have an entire team and you want them to be able to do things the same way for all of your clients, I imagine, or,
exactly.
Pretty much. So.
Yeah. Without having to ask people all the time also, which is good. It saves time and energy.
Yeah.
And so why are systems so critical for a small business and for them to find success?
So for small businesses or solopreneurs, which is a lot of who I work with, you have a limited time frame to get everything done, right? I think we have a lot of stress every day in our lives. And so adding extra things on top can be overwhelming. So a lot of times small businesses will find overwhelm happening when they don't have efficient and sufficient procedures in place. And so the idea behind systems is that it's creating consistency for you. It's saving you time. It's reducing that stress level. And when you have that structure in place, it's a lot easier to run your day-to-day operations. It's easier to scale and train new people. If I can say like, oh, I'm going to bring you on and here's like everything you need to learn how to do. You don't have to necessarily come to me all the time, because that's the other hard thing is like people will be like, I can't hire. I don't have time to train someone, and I don't have time to like get them running up and board. I'm like, well, you can't keep this up. Like you're going to burn out. And so having that ability to like push off tasks to somebody else, and I don't mean push off, but like assign tasks to somebody else, is really it's an aha moment for a lot of businesses when they're able to do that. So they're critical because you want that consistency. You don't want things to fall through the crack. And while sales are fantastic, systems are the backbone of your business. Like they are what is sustaining you for growth, and allowing you to sell, because you could sell all day long, but if you can't deliver the product, if you suck on the back end and the customer service fails, like you're not going to be having a long success, I guess.
Yeah. What I've found too, like for us, it just makes our team feel happier and more empowered too, because they can really succeed in their job. Like I've been in roles myself before I had my own business where I just felt like I was being set up for failure because there was no structure in place for me. And it's like, where do you go from there? But if someone's given a structure, then they can really like shine in that.
Yeah, they can take ownership and really be proud. Mm-hmm.
I think also, we talk a lot about marketing, like having a marketing plan. And I always like kind of try to reinforce with designers that having a system to create that plan or to create that content is going to make it easier for you. And it's not going to be such a time suck.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Marketing is a huge system that I think people don't realize is a system. I think they just think of like marketing as this other thing, but yeah, the content creation, the brainstorming of ideas, the discipline of like, I'm going to do this at this time every month. That's a system. And then how you're posting it and all that is, a system for sure.
Can you talk about a few signs that a business like needs help with systems or needs to put systems in place?
Yeah. So the first is just that constant overwhelm feeling where you just can't get it all done. And you have tasks that are being missed. You're dropping the ball with orders or clients. And there's that inconsistent customer experience. I imagine for Laryssa's business, you have an agency, you have a lot of clients that you're delivering for. And if you miss something, or if one client's having a great experience and another one's not, that's not looking great on your business, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And, people talk. That's the whole deal, right? So, you have word of mouth getting around, you have testimonials, you have reviews online now. And those inconsistencies can really hurt businesses. So a huge sign of they're struggling is like they're overwhelmed. And then there's this inconsistency in experience. And somebody, an owner who's spending more time on admin tasks than working on their growth or the growth activities or their creative tasks, that's usually a big sign too. Like when you're bogged down in all the admin and you can't do what you enjoy or what you need to do to grow the business, then you really need to put some systems in.
Yeah.
Even though I just work for I don't have employees or anything like that, I have my own systems too, because if I didn't, and I don't have them written down, which maybe is something I should consider, but without them, I find myself spinning my wheels, or I find myself, to your point, being inconsistent with the way I deliver my content or the way I show up for my different communities and platforms.
Yeah, exactly. And, we all have a lot of different like irons in the fire, right? So we have different objectives for our business. We serve different clientele. And so, each one of those has a different feel for a process that had to happen. But for me, the other one that's really important with systems is like, sometimes I only do things once a quarter, or like my taxes. Okay, I'm really terrible about my taxes, and I do them at the end of the year, which is horrible because I keep telling myself every time I do it, I'm going to do it every month. But I do it at the end of the year, but I have to remember at the end of every year, where am I going to pull all of these different numbers? And so I wrote it down, finally I followed my own rules and I really wrote it down. And so this past year I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go here. And that's where I found this. And this is where I did this. And this is how I send it to my accounting person in the format that they want it. So that I'm not making their life a headache. And so, sometimes it's really helpful for those things that you do very infrequently as well to remember as well.
It's so true. The thing that's frustrating for me about systems is I find they're never like just set and forget. Like usually you have to come and update them, or as you're working through it, then it's like, oh yeah, now we need a system for this other thing. So it never ends.
It's very true. They are, I call them like a living being, they
Mhm.
are constantly changing. They're growing with your business and the demand that your business has, and the changing world of systems and tools and technology as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so say you're a small business and you're listening to this episode and you're like, I have no systems. Where do you get started?
Okay, so don't overcomplicate it, right? Like I first say, just start easy. Think of something that you do on a regular basis every single day, and start documenting that. And it could also be, a lot of times people will be like, where do I want to start? And I'm like, start with what you want to get rid of. Start with tasks that you maybe want to outsource to somebody else at some point. So if that is, order processing or client communication or accounting and things like that are always things. But a lot of times a great place to start is with client communication, because if you're doing that on your own, it can be a headache. We have a lot of people who are like, well, everyone always asks me like, what's my return policy, or like, how long is it going to take for my order to ship? And they're like, it's on my website. It's in my FAQs. And I'm like, that's very true. I understand that people aren't going to go read it. And so they're emailing you. And so the simple system with client communication is just creating email templates. And people will be like, well, how do I know what templates to create? And I'm like, just go through your FAQs. And that's like a time saver there, because then somebody's asking the same repetitive question to you. You can just select that template. And, you're not necessarily writing a step-by-step process. You wrote out those emails that you've already written 100 times, but now you just made it a template. And so that's a great place people start. That starts to save them time. And then documenting kind of their order processing, and just more simple tasks as well.
I find that shipping too, like having a system for shipping, is a good place for people to start, because that's like oftentimes a thing that designers want to get off their plate.
Yeah, it's a thing that designers want to get off their plate. And it's also a thing that sometimes when you're getting in there halfway through, you forget like, okay, now what do I do here? Or what am I supposed to select at this part? But yeah, shipping is a lot of times, especially during the holiday, you're bringing in like, an employee to do it, or a family friend to help with it. Also just packaging rules is something that is really easy, so that you're maybe not passing off your production yet, but you can pass off, how does it go on the card and then into the box, and then how are we putting that together? Because, especially as we approach, getting into, this will be after holiday season, but when you're in holiday season, a lot of people do hire on extra help of just extra hands, and you're looking for simple things you can pass off. So documenting those things are usually the ones to start with.
Okay, so I feel like I asked this question already. Where do I want to go from here? Okay. I feel like you've answered all of these questions that I have already. Like, how can a business identify the areas they need help with? Look at what you don't want to be doing, or look at, where you have the least consistency. I feel like
where you're wasting time a lot of times. So, a lot of times when you're doing stuff repetitively, but you haven't documented it, you're like reinventing the wheel every time. And you're like having to think for a moment, like, okay, what do I do now? And those minutes, those like little minutes add up. And so, just really thinking about how to cut those time wasting activities. And it's usually those repetitive ones.
I've found you just also have to change your mindset too, because if you're a solopreneur and you're so used to doing things, you're not thinking about doing the things, because you just kind of do them, especially if you're used to it. And so it kind of requires you to like start being more aware of what you're doing also.
Yeah, I can't remember. What is the book? Is it E-Myth or something, where they're talking about working in your business, but versus working on your business? And I think there's a certain point when you're in your solopreneurship where you are so in your business, you cannot see out. You can't start to think strategically. You can't think of growth because you're so much in the day-to-day. And so a lot of people will be like, well, I'm just tired. I'm just burnt out. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And they're like, I want to create again. I want to be inspired to like make new stuff. And I just don't have the time to even get to the bench. And I'm like, well, you gotta you got to make time by creating these systems and making these things easier, or thinking, how can I automate something, as well. And so, yeah, a lot of times, people will just be looking for a way to get back to what they loved in the beginning, so they can enjoy the business again. And that, a lot of times people have all these other solutions, and mine is like, you just need systems.
It's so true. I mean, that really is my roundabout answer when designers tell me they can't get to their marketing. It's like, you just need a system in place. You just need to be consistent with it. And you just have to figure out a way to do it,
Yeah.
Are there any like common mistakes you see with small businesses when they're setting up their systems?
Okay. So yes, one, overcomplicating it. So sometimes people will think it has to be perfect. Like they've got to like document every single step. There can't be a single mistake or something missing. They have to find the perfect way to document it and all this stuff. It's just perfectionism that bogs us down in so many aspects of our lives. But it also happens when people want to start implementing systems. They feel like they have to have a certain way, like this SOP word, and they have to have this form that they fill out. And I'm like, no, just like jot down the bullet points or the numbered, how to. So that's the one thing, is just keep it simple. And then the other thing is, people will be doing this thing over and over, and then they just neglect to document the process. And so there are, yes, you can grab your pen and paper and start writing. You could type when you're doing the steps along with it. But there's also great tools, like there's a Google extension. Both of these are going to be Google Chrome extensions that I'm going to mention. And I do recommend using Google Chrome because they have all these lovely extensions that you can use where, Safari and other things don't have. But one of them is called Scribe, Scribe. And it's a Google extension. You can just Google it. And basically, when you turn it on, it records everything that you're doing on the screen, not like a video recording, but it is watching where your pencil's going. It's taking not pencils, your clicker is going, your mouse, and it's taking screenshots whenever you click, and then it's documenting what you did. So it's writing your system for you. And then you just basically go back and you can tweak it. You can say like, oh, I misclicked there or something, and you can delete that, and you can write out a more explanation for it. So it's already kind of done a lot of the work for you. The other thing that I love to do when I'm doing things on the computer is use Loom, Loom, .com. Loom does video recordings of your screen, and you can talk through the process. And if you've ever watched one of my trainings, that's what I'm using when I'm training. It also now like gives you a transcript. It gives steps. It gives like timestamps that you can edit to help people skip ahead. But it's a really great tool so that you're not even having to document anything. You're not having to write anything down. It's all doing it for you. And so those are great ways to like just start the process of documenting. And then you could just take the transcript and turn that into a document if you want it. So
I use Loom every day so much. I love Loom.
Yeah, I do it a lot. Like, so I'll have people, past clients ask me, oh, how do I do this in the system? And I'm like, we could get on a call, but that's going to be like at least 30 minutes for me, if not more, because you want to talk and all that kind of stuff. But I'll just do a video, and it's like 2 to 5 minutes of me explaining. Mm-hmm. So then one, they have that recording, they can watch it again later, but it also just saved me 25 minutes.
Yes.
And not that I don't want to talk to people. I love to connect, but sometimes I have a lot of other things going on. Totally. I do those a ton.
I like to take the transcripts too, and I'll run it through ChatGPT, and I'll say, just pull out like the main action items or something like that. If I just need like a bullet list too. So there's like tools you can use together to really like pull out the meat of whatever you're talking about.
Yeah. ChatGPT is a really cool tool for that. Cause I'll say like, create my step-by-step process from this transcript, and it will write that out. And so if you think about how long it would have taken you to write that, and then now you did a video, you copied and pasted a transcript, you gave a little prompt, and now you have a written document along with your video. Can you imagine like if you hired somebody and brought them in and you were like, you can watch the video, here's the written as well. People learn in different ways. Some people will learn from the video. Some people want to have a written document. Mm-hmm. And so you've set them up for success already.
Yeah.
Those are some amazing tools. Can you share a success story where a client saw like a big impact after improving their systems?
Yeah. So for me, one of the systems that I put in place a lot that clients like initially don't think that they need, and then they're like, oh my God, is a CRM. So a CRM is a client relationship management database. Essentially, it's where you can store information about all of your clients, their contact information, but also notes and their order history and everything like that. And so it's also a way that you can email out. And a lot of times people will use it for their wholesale accounts. So I had a designer come to me last year, and she was going to be doing New York Now. And she wanted to go ahead and get a CRM in place so she could get her list in and start reaching out and doing some wholesale outreach before the show, which is what we always coach on, right? We're like, if you're going to go to a trade show, you need to do outreach. You need to tell people you're there. You need to invite them. You need to show them your pieces before they come so that they'll come and stop by. It'll help have more success. And so she put that in place. She was like, okay, I want you to help me with the emails that I'm going to send out. I want you to help me create these templates. I want to have a plan for, what my first email is going to be, my second and third. And then I want to be able to track who's opening it, who's clicking it, who's most interested, so I can target them harder. And so we put that all in place, and she ran her plan perfectly, her outreach plan. And she had more people coming to her booth. She placed some orders. She was like, and it was even more so of my follow-up afterward. I could track who came, who saw, who just looked, and I could follow up with them on the back end as well. But she was like, I have so much more data at my fingertips to see like who's actually interested based off of their activities with my emails and my outreach. And so that was fantastic to know that. And she's still using it religiously. She's like, this has changed my whole world. And I was like, great. I'm so glad. I love when people actually use what we implement. So
I know who you're talking about, and it was a game changer for her. But yeah, I think that you can also implement that with direct to consumer too, and like high end clients and private clients and stuff like that, because it's so much to keep track of, like birth dates or like when they last ordered or when you last corresponded with them and what you said. Like, I mean, that is a really important system to think about.
Yeah. And I talked about this. I can't remember if it was a training with RBI or if it was a training when I came and talked with somebody, but somebody asked me like, when you're doing outreach emails, what are the most successful ones? And I was like, okay, to be honest, I do a birthday email every year to all of my clients. It is an automated email. I was like, as much as I want to personalize it and every year, like I can go in sometimes and personalize them ahead of time. Usually I'm sending my clients that I know of the birthdays text anyway, or I'm messaging them on Facebook or Instagram and all that stuff. So that's my personalization. But I send out a birthday email every year to everybody. And that is the one I get 100% response on every year. Like my automated email is the one I get 100% back on. And that is one that I wouldn't have if I didn't have my CRM with their birthdays in it. Like Facebook's might tell me, but I'm not necessarily going to be able to go in the system every day that somebody has a birthday and write an email to them. So it automatically goes, and that's an automation that I put in place, but it is one that I get 100% response on, which is crazy to me. Because I don't necessarily respond to everyone who wishes me a happy birthday business wise, but it is. But that's like a simple one. It's a simple.
Must be a good email.
Yeah, it's cute. So yeah, it is a cute one, but it's not like anything special. It's a simple graphic and then like a, heartfelt message. And I change the message every year and I add things to it. But yeah, that's something I track. I also track my client anniversary with everybody. So I wish, I say thank you so much for becoming my client on this date. But yes, I have clients who track their VIP and they will keep in there the ring sizes, the spouse's name, the what they might have been interested in, their favorite gemstones. They will keep in track, like, is the earlobe attached or detached? So when they're designing ears, they can like think about that. I mean, these are details you wouldn't necessarily remember, but they are really valuable for going forward. And with customs and things, those are clients that you've built this big relationship with. Right. And so a lot of times you can have those repeat business from custom clients. And so, but it's about like that follow-up game that like, I know when their anniversary is, I'm going to email them, 3 weeks before to see if they need anything or whatever my lead time might be. Right. If I'm going to custom make something or if I'm going to sell them something off of the shelf, not really a shelf, but and so it's about, and also saying happy anniversary, even if they didn't purchase, but still wishing them, because you want to continue to cultivate that relationship.
We could do a whole episode on CRM systems.
Yeah, we could. CRM systems, custom jewelry systems, like that process there, can be such a headache for so many. Yeah, that's the other one I set up for people a lot, is a custom design process.
Yeah, we're going to have you back. But for now, thank you so much for chatting with us. Can you tell us a little bit about the Red Boot Intensive and how designers can work with you?
Yes. So the Red Boot Intensive, or RBI, as we call it, you'll hear us refer to that a lot, is a 12-month coaching program I do with Robin Kramer of Red Boot Consulting. And it is a small group coaching program, very personalized to each designer. We keep it small because we want it to be intimate. We really dive deep into each person's business. And we offer one-on-one coaching every month. We do group training every month. We do tech training every month. So I'll get on and show people how to do something. We will implement it in their business right then. We also do an in-person workshop every March. And so it's a great way to kind of be able to really dive into your business and implement a lot very quickly. It's called an intensive for a reason, because we are kind of getting you up and running and growing a lot faster. So it is for established designers who are looking to grow and really focus on their business and make a change and an impact in a short period of time. And our applications are open right now. If you apply before November 15th, which this will air after, that's in like 2 days. But anyway, if you apply before the end of the year, you can join us in 2025.
Yeah, I've heard great things about this program. How can designers work with you? You mentioned setting up systems for people or helping people in that way. How can people get in touch with you?
So you can go to my website, www.graceandcosolutions with an S at the end.com. You can look for me on Instagram at Grace and Co Solutions, and you can email me. It's just Kelly at Grace and Co Solutions. So you can reach out to me lots of different ways. But yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Do you have systems in place in your business? Let us know. Visit successwithjewelry.com. And if you love the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Send us a message or leave us a review. Thanks for being a part of the Success with Jewelry community.